Mayor Sagata. Mayor Pro Tem Schuster.
Present.
Commissioner Chatterley.
Present.
Commissioner Chavez.
Present.
Commissioner Giacomo.
Y'all please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Everybody for showing up tonight. With announcements pursuant to Open Meetings Resolution 2019-01, the Raton City Commission will not hold a regular city commission meeting on the fourth Tuesday of December. That will be Christmas Eve in this instance. All city offices will be closed on Wednesday, December 25th in observance of Christmas Day and Wednesday, January 1st in observance of New Year's Day. Our next regular commission meeting will be Tuesday, January 14th, 2020, at 6 p.m. here in the chambers. This time we'll entertain any comments from the general public. Seeing none, we'll move on to action items. Item A, approval of the December 10th, 2019 regular commission meeting minutes.
If there are no discrepancies, I make a motion to approve.
One second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as stated. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, vote by sign of aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item D, public hearing, deliberate and act on ordinance number 1007, authorizing issue of the City of Raton, New Mexico Joint Utility System Improvement Revenue Bonds Series 2018 in the principal amount of $1,754,000 for the purpose of acquiring, extending, enlarging, bettering, repairing, or otherwise improving the city's joint utility system, providing for the issuance and sale of bonds, providing that bonds will be payable and collectible solely from net revenue to be derived from the operation of the city's joint utility system, providing for terms and conditions of bonds, the manner of their execution, the method of paying the bond, and other details concerning the bond and such system, including but not limited to covenants and agreements in connection therewith, ratifying action previously taken in connection therewith, and are appertaining thereto. Mr. Berry.
Mayor and Commission, in regard to this item, this is something that we've talked about over more than a year, a long time, and that's the renovation of the Raton filter plant project. As I've reported to you, and Dan Campbell has reported to you, that project construction is well underway. We do anticipate a completion of the construction this spring, April or May timeframe, and construction is proceeding well. Now, if you remember back when we talked about the funding and financing of this project, City of Raton did apply to a program under USDA for funding, and they did approve the $1.7 million and some change you see here in the form of a loan and $800,000 in the form of a grant. The requirements of that USDA loan grant were that we put in place interim financing through a private institution, and we did that with the agreement with Co-Bank, if you remember back some time. And we have drawn all of that money that has gone towards the construction cost. So we have completed that that interim loan part, and what would happen now, what we anticipate is that that loan, the $1.754 million that you see in the item here, would then be transferred from Co-Bank to USDA. That's where the loan would reside following construction, and we would be able to start drawing on grant funds. And so that's the action that is anticipated here. You'll remember that we talked about this and set this item up back in the second meeting in November, published this action anticipating adoption by the commission. We do have this set up for a public hearing, so we can take any public comments. I would note that we do have the chairman of the water board present here as well, and the water board will talk about this at their meeting subsequently later tonight. However, Mayor and Commission, I'll report to you that we have been waiting for some concurrence from USDA to take this action tonight. We needed some additional information from them to put in the final ordinance. We did not receive the concurrence. We did not receive the information that we were looking for. So that final draft is not in your packet tonight, and we will be forced to postpone action on this until we get that concurrence from USDA. I do anticipate that they will take part in a regularly scheduled construction progress meeting in the morning, and we'll try to find out information about when we can receive that concurrence. However, they did not respond to our attempts to reach them today. So I would suggest to the commission that first of all, we will conduct the public hearing. We'll take any input on that, and then we will postpone this action, and we don't know the dates that we would take it up again, but I would suggest that we would have to republish the ordinance, in essence, introduce it over again, and then set that up for action in the commission as that schedule works out. So we don't know those dates yet until we get that concurrence from USDA.
Alrighty, hearing that, as Mr. Berry said, recommendation is to postpone this. However, we are in the public comment part of that right now. Are there any questions from Mr. Berry? Mr. Lisco, do you have anything to say? Okay, thank you.
Let me just add, Mayor, that as far as the flow of cash to finance the project, we would now be forced to finance the project, and I think that the city of Raton Waters has the ability to do that. That's not what we anticipated when we scheduled this. However, construction has to proceed. Now, I think that things will slow down a little over the holiday season here, but construction on the project is proceeding along, and after the first year, it'll pick back up and proceed, and there'll be a time when we're in essence, and Waterworks is financing the project. So I would throw that in there.
Do we see a need for a meeting, a special meeting for that before the next meeting, which is not until the middle of January? Is that a concern?
Yeah, that is possible, but we won't know that until we're able to talk to USDA, and I anticipate what that conversation would look like is they would have to huddle up with maybe somebody in their legal section about getting that all the final information and the final approvals, and so I don't know that we're going to be able to pick that out tomorrow. So realistically, I think that we would try to take this up again after the first of the year, and in all likelihood, we'll take care of that at our regularly scheduled January 14th meeting.
Any other comments? Entertain a motion to postpone. A motion and a second to postpone action on ordinance number 1007 at this time. Is there further discussion? All in favor, vote by sign of aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, deliberate and act on resolution 2019-61, support for submission of Volkswagen grant application.
Mayor and Commission, or partners at the Center for Community Innovation, have done some work on this proposed application for 2017 Volkswagen settlement funding. They have asked that this be brought to the Commission, and there are a couple of things that we wanted to clarify before we brought this resolution to the Commission. But the resolution that is in your packet that you would consider tonight would be included in an application, and we'll talk about that application real quickly, and that would be anticipated to, following your action tonight, be finalized and submitted before the January 9th deadline for submissions of applications. Under a settlement funding agreement, Volkswagen had agreed to distribute a certain amount of money to beneficiaries, which is generally state agencies in each state. And the New Mexico Environment Department is the beneficiary in New Mexico. They have published a plan which is on their website as far as projects that they would fund with this Volkswagen settlement funding. We This is the second round of requests for applications from the New Mexico Environment Department, approximately $5 million as we understand it, and it would be designated for a variety of projects that would fit in the category of excess emissions offset type of projects. So that could be replacement of a gas or diesel piece of equipment with an electric powered piece of equipment. It could be a number of things. Now, what we are proposing here, again in partnership with the community for the Center for Community Innovation, would be the installation and construction of electric vehicle charging stations in Raton. And I've learned a little bit about this over the past couple of weeks, and there are basically three types of electric vehicle charging stations. And so a level one would be kind of the most inexpensive type. It may be something that you have at your company garage or at your home, and would take a long time to charge a vehicle. Probably something you would plug in overnight. Maybe equivalent to something you see at one of the motels, something like that. And then there's a level two charger, which will effectively charge a vehicle over a 3 or 4 hour period. Both of those are alternating current type of piece of equipment. And then there's a DC fast charging piece of equipment. So originally we talked about one DC fast charging piece of equipment. However, in discussion with the center, we have agreed that we would apply for a facility consisting of two level two charging apparatus. And this would be placed on city-owned property in the area of the railroad depot or the multimodal, the Heritage Park facility. Working on the cost estimate, we have put an estimated price for construction of the project of $40,000. What I would ask the commission is to commit $5,000 in cash to the project. That would be general fund money, and we would ask for settlement fund grant funding of $35,000. Now, I would tell you that on a fast charging DC apparatus, a 25% match is required. However, with the level two, that's 100% grant money. There is no match required. However, we think that we would have a stronger application if we did put in an amount. So you see that $5,000 match put in here. Now, I would also tell you that that's cash, and we do anticipate some in-kind services from Raton Public Service Company as well. So combined with in-kind, it would exceed that amount. But we do think that the $40,000 will be enough funding to install two of those types of chargers. I'll hold up there, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions, comments for Mr. Larry?
I do. What did you say the amount of time it takes to charge on that level two? Is that like a couple of hours?
I understand that it's 3 to 4 hours.
3 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
Can we hold them captive for that?
We'll ask you to shop in downtown Raton at that time.
There you go. Sure. Go ahead.
I don't have any motion to approve the resolution 2019-60
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve resolution 2019-61 submission for the Volkswagen grant application. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item D, deliberate and act on amendment to resolution 2019-62, fiscal year 20, budget adjustment number 4.
Mayor and Commission, you'll recall at the last meeting, I did present to you a budget adjustment, and it was approved. Normally, before I bring it to the Commission, I enter it into our accounting system, and I didn't do that this last time. So as I was entering the budget adjustment, I came across some typos. So I kind of highlighted for you, I had some line item numbers that were wrong, and then on the 1,750, I had both of them showing as a credit. And then I also had, I think, a line for auto insurance, and then it was just blank. I didn't finish the line. So anyway, those two pieces were missing. And then I was missing the city promotional expenses, which is a adjustment that Commissioner Chatterley and I had talked about several months ago. So I'm bringing this back to you because I'd rather us approve an amendment for the corrections and the additional items that I failed to put in there than wait till June 14th. And then that way I can get it submitted to Department of Finance, because it takes a couple weeks for them to approve it as well. So is there any questions on the corrections that I've highlighted for you?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the resolution 2019-62 fiscal year budget adjustment. I'll second.
Motion and a second to adopt resolution 2019-62. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item E, deliberate and act on grant agreement number 410-A19D2142-2004 between the Department of Economic Development and the City of Raton in partnership with Raton Main Street for the final phase of the Great Blocks project. Mr. Gray?
Mayor and Commission, we did hear of an announcement from New Mexico Main Street in recent weeks that the City of Raton application for capital outlay had been approved, and we had applied for funding in the amount of $800,000 to complete the Great Blocks project. This would be phase 3 of the Great Blocks project in the First Street area of Raton, the historic railroad area of downtown Raton. During the application process, the commission passed a resolution which was included in the application package, where the city did commit to $160,000 of matching funds for this project. Now, that's not mentioned in the grant agreement, but we did commit to that. That's anticipated. So I would expect that would be part of this entering into this agreement. And we would provide that out of our gas tax fund, which we have planned for in leading up to this. So New Mexico Main Street is a department of, is a division of the State Economic Development Department. And you see this agreement in front of you, which came out pretty quickly after the announcement. And we do want to move into the project fairly quickly. And it states that they would fully fund the project, $800,000 as requested. We would, then our commitment for $160,000 would be in effect. And it lays out the terms of that grant agreement. Now, we've had 2 of these before, and New Mexico Main Street and Economic Development Department, we have a good working relationship with them. But you see the terms in front of you for the project. The project is fully designed. We would have to do some work on bid documents with our design professionals to get this going. But with your consideration of the grant agreement tonight, return this to New Mexico Main Street. We would look at entering into that bidding process fairly quickly. Then I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Gray? No, this was pretty good news for us.
I'll move to approve grant agreement number 410-N1D2142-2005. I'll second.
Motion and a second to adopt the grant agreement between Economic Development and the City of Raton in partnership with Raton Main Street. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item F, deliberate and act on grant agreement A18C5019 between Aging and Long-Term Services Department and the City of Raton for building improvements at the Raton Senior Center. I will be abstaining from the vote on this one.
Commissioners, this is a funding agreement between the City of Raton and New Mexico Aging and Long-Term Services Department from their capital appropriations in the amount of $40,000. As you remember, City of Raton is the owner of the building that houses the Raton Senior Center, and typically we would work with the seniors organization to fund improvements like this on the building. So the amount of $40,000, and I anticipate, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but this would be for window replacement in the building. Is that correct?
Possibly the front doors.
Doors and windows, we would say. And so what we would do following the full execution of the grant agreement is work on a sealed bid process, and that's when we find out, how far the money will go, and we'll make that determination. But that's what we anticipate happening, and with your consideration of the agreement, we'll return it to Aging and Long-Term and try to head towards that bidding process.
Make a motion to approve.
And a second to approve that. Agreement between Aging and Long-Term Services and the City of Raton. Any further discussion? Any discussion? All in favor, vote by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item G, deliberate and act on Envision IT Solutions Services Agreement for Raton Fire Department. Mr. Blair?
Mayor and Commission, you'll remember back in the early part of 2019, we had discussed upgrading some of our IT systems here, the hardware specifically, and we had also talked about maintenance contract with Envision IT Solutions. They've been working on that for us, replacement and upgrading of equipment, and then the maintenance service agreement as well. And that's worked pretty well for us, I would say. So this piece here would be specific to the fire department. Of course, they deal with a lot of data that has to do with their business of fire department or ambulance service there. So it's an important system that they would run there at their facility. And Michael Ann, am I correct in saying that we can apply fire funds to this type of service?
Yes, the fire chief has already obtained approval from the state fire marshal for these expenditures it's a monthly contract.
So the cost of the contract is based on the number of workstations and the number of servers that are present. At this facility, there's, I think, one server, and then the number of workstations that are needed for the personnel that we have there. So that's how the fees are calculated here, and I would say that Envision has done a really good job for us. Me and Michael Ann sleep a lot better at night now, and would recommend the Commission's consideration of this agreement.
Recommendation to approve this agreement. Is there any further discussion?
I do have a question, Mr. Mayor. So does the police department have a separate contract, or are they under the city's main contract?
The police department would have a separate contract. That's,
I don't remember. I can't remember.
That
Back
is-
to when we approved if we had a separate one for them.
that will be a separate contract. It's not in place currently.
Okay, not in place currently. Okay.
So there's plans for Envision to come up January 16th. We've been talking about some dates after the new year to take a look at the police department system and also the Raton Housing Authority. So they kind of want to come do an assessment to put together a quote because it's not only going to be a monthly contract, but there's probably going to be some upgrades to computers and servers that need to take place before they can provide the IT support.
And you remember that there was some capital outlay funding from the legislature in the 2019 legislature for replacement of some IT equipment there, so we're still in process on that.
So that original contract that the city had with Envision IT, it was mainly City Hall. I'm sorry, I can't remember.
It's-
City, RPS,
And
and Raton Waterworks.
Okay.
On the utilities, right.
Make a motion to
Motion and a second to approve the agreement between the IT and the fire department. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I would add, Commissioners, that this contract also includes the backup services, and that would be off-site backup.
Item H, city manager report, Mr. Berry.
Mayor and Commissioners, I will be brief tonight. I just would simply like to acknowledge the efforts of our city crews during the winter storms that we've had. We got them early, and we've had a number of storms regularly, and I think that the city crews have performed extremely well on that. And so we had a storm over Thanksgiving, and they spent a lot of their time working on that. We had a storm here in the past day and a half, and they performed pretty well on that. And so that's the Public Works Department. It's all hands-on-deck situation. But in addition, Raton Waterworks has had their equipment and their crews out working on snow removal as well. And so we really appreciate their efforts. And when we get this weather, Raton Public Service Company, Raton Police Department, Fire and Ambulance, they're on high alert. And so whatever comes up as a result of that. So I just want to take a minute and acknowledge those efforts. Look like we're going to have some winter this year. And, we have people who really prepare and put the time in when we do get that weather. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Is there anything else? That's the end of his report? That's it? Can you believe it?
Merry Christmas, Commissioners.
Commissioner Chatterjee, anything? Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Chatterjee, Mayor Pro Tem.
No, I was just going to second what we were saying on Monday when we